New user detected. Initiating data upload. Upload complete.
I can see the whole room without my glasses. Startle? What the hell? You've unlocked Vampire System.
What secrets lie within the virtual world that Quinn has become so enthralled with? Will he be able to uncover the truth behind the mysterious game, or will he become its next victim? As Quinn continues to navigate the treacherous landscape of the VR game, what dangers and challenges await him?
Nate continued to observe Quinn and his fighting style, and wondered just why he didn't fight the same as when he fought against him. Quinn repeatedly went into match after match and would only go up against level 1s. It was clear to Nate that he had purposely set the system up this way. Now some players would do this if they perhaps were trying out something new, but from watching Quinn, all he could see was Quinn doing the same thing over and over. He would enter into a game, and then immediately dash in either using a barrage of the red line attacks of his, or a flurry of punches, not caring whether he got hurt or not. It was clear he was beating them with pure strength and trying to win the matches as quickly as possible. Unknown to Nate, though, Quinn was purposely doing this. He didn't have much time left between now and when he was to go out onto his portal training, so the only thing Quinn could do was grind a few levels to get stronger using the system. Finally, 30 minutes had passed, and Quinn himself was growing tired of repeating the same thing over and over again. The only thing that kept him going was seeing his experience go up little by little. That's when Quinn noticed that he had a spectator. Nate, who was sitting in the seats, gave a wave back. "Oh, it's him. I wonder what he's doing here." Then a thought came to Quinn's mind. The fact that Nate was watching gave him the chance to ask him something. He then went on to the game system and sent out a party invite to Nate. At first, Nate was just planning to spectate and watch Quinn play a few games. He wanted to study Quinn a bit more before asking him to another duel. But when he saw the party invite, he was quite surprised. The game only allowed for one-on-one battles, so the party invite feature was only really used between teammates for practicing, or if they wanted to chat and were far away. In the end, Nate was too curious and wanted to know what Quinn wanted, and decided to accept. The arena ground disappeared, and now Nate and Quinn were in a single white room once again. "Hey, how are you doing? I hope you're not planning some type of revenge, are you?" Nate said as he proceeded cautiously towards Quinn. "No, actually, I wanted to ask you something. The person who I fought with before, your friend, I wanted to know more about his cape and where he had received it from." "Oh, Sam's cape. That's why you wanted to talk to me." Nate then looked at Quinn standing in front of him. In his hands he wore his gauntlets. That's when Nate suddenly realized something. The gauntlets that Quinn was using looked horrible. They must have been only at the basic tier. "Wait a minute, are you a first year?" Nate said. Yeah. I will be going on my first portal outing. I thought if you could tell me what type of beast you got it from, I would be able to look for it." Nate was suddenly a little surprised. He went back and thought about how Quinn was able to damage his solid body, even though no one had done such a feat before. He was sure the person would have been at least a second year. "Let me give you a piece of advice then. On your first outing, they always use the green portals. You have the chance of going to one of 3 places: Kaladi, Almpin, and Bartney. Out of these 3 planets, you want to go to Kaladi. There in the desert, there's a winged creature. I can't remember the name of the winged creature, but there aren't many in the desert, so I'm sure if you see one, that will be it. That beast core is what we made the cape out of." "Wait, did you say a desert?" Quinn asked. "Yeah, what's wrong with that?" Usually the word desert meant the place came with heat. The idea of having to journey through that, Quinn was starting to get tired just thinking about it. "Don't worry. Thank you so much for the information. You've been a big help. I'm going to play a few more games now before my time is up." "Oh, sure, go ahead. Do you mind if I watch?" Nate asked. Quinn thought about it for a while. If he didn't want to let Nate watch, all he had to do was block him or delete him from his friends list. But at the same time, Quinn felt like there was no problem. He was just fighting people. It wasn't like he was doing anything that suggested he was a vampire, and it was likely that Nate wasn't even from the same school as him. "Sure, go ahead." Quinn only had 20 minutes left inside the machine, and using his remaining time, Quinn chose to use the quick match function on the game, matching him with random power levels who chose the same option. This half of his session would be used to practice his fighting skills. In the remaining 20 minutes, Quinn was able to have 2 more games. His first match, he was against a level 4 user who had a transformation ability. His body was made of a rubber-like material, and he was able to stretch it as far as he liked. Quinn struggled against this opponent. The fighting style of the rubber man was strange, and when Quinn wasn't expecting it, he would be hit at an incredible speed. In the end, Quinn managed to get a few blood swipes in and hurt the man, but still ended up losing. The next match there was much more success, as he was matched up against a level 2 user who had a hardening skill similar to Nate, only weaker. He had an easier time dealing with this opponent, as his blood swipe dealt damage as well as his regular attacks. In the end, though, Quinn decided to take the match just as seriously as the others, and ended up finishing it with a hammer strike. 195 of 800. With that, Quinn's time in the game was up, and he had to leave. Nate, after watching Quinn for the whole time, had a strange thought lingering on his mind. Just what was Quinn's ability? After their battle, Nate had decided to check out the ability list to see if there was anything similar, and he could find no such thing. The other thing was, it seemed like all Quinn could do was shoot out red lines, which would suggest either the ability he had at the moment was incredibly weak, or he was currently at a low level. What Quinn didn't realize, though, was that all the opponents he had faced that day were thinking the same thing as Nate. They were wondering just what ability Quinn had. The hardening user Quinn had just fought was as so frustrated with his loss, he decided to go onto the online forums and make a post. He shared a video of the match between himself and Quinn titled, "What ability is this? Is he a hacker?" The online forum had started to gain some traction with users who had fought against Quinn. They started to post comments just below about the video. "Yeah, I fought against him too, and he used those red lines on me. I lost in an instant. Is there really an ability like that in the game? It looks like Windslash, but why are the lines red?" Of course, even though the post had gained some traction, there weren't many. After all, things like this were posted on a daily occurrence, and usually it was from some people who couldn't accept a loss, thinking the other person must be hacking. But those who did watch the video started to ping the creators asking if what was seen in the video was real. Of course, one of the admin staff for the game came along and checked the video, but this person wasn't any ordinary admin staff. It was a student at the school named Logan Green. Logan himself wasn't ordinary, for he was the son of the creator of the game, and not only that, but was one of the head coders as well. He often visited the forum to check for bugs, and if there were any, he would try to fix them while still attending school. Then suddenly, late at night, that day, he noticed that post had started to gain traction. Usually he wouldn't have bothered with these things, but the staff were getting tagged in the post more than usual. After watching the video, suddenly his attention had been caught. Logan immediately could tell that the video was real. He searched up the 2 user IDs that were in the game and then decided to look at the match information. After searching them up, he noticed that the player that was being questioned in the video had selected no ability. No, it couldn't be. Did he really manage to hack the system? Logan then began to dig in deep into the match and checked everything about it. He checked the log of the game and everything that had been written down as the match went on, but there wasn't a single thing he could find that was wrong. Logan actually felt relieved. The game so far had been successful, not only because of how it was able to accurately replicate abilities, but also because the game had yet to be hacked. After finding out this information, Logan had no choice but to think it had something to do with his ability. Although Original's abilities weren't able to be copied into the game, this was the only answer he could think of. But one question remained, and that was just who was the user behind ID Blood Evolver. It was company policy to not keep records of any of the users in the game. The data was scrambled so not even he could get access to it. But that wouldn't stop Logan. The next day, combat classes had resumed back to normal. The group were told to continue training independently, and if they wished to spar with a partner, they could politely ask. Leo would go around giving tips to the students when he could. In the afternoon, after classes were done, Quinn would head to the VR room to continue his daily routine. He continued facing low-level ones and used the second half to train. 275 of 800. But the more people Quinn played against, the more traction the original forum post was getting, and all of this was unknown to Quinn. He didn't even know there was an online forum for the game. Quinn had never had any of these things in the past. He had access to the TV and internet, but didn't really know much about games. It was only thanks to Vorden showing him everything he knew what to do. Another day had passed, and Quinn repeated the process. 440 of 800. Not only was Quinn quickly gaining EXP, but he also felt like he was getting a hang of his abilities more. He knew when the time was right to use Flash Step and also learned how to combine his two skills, so he would be able to disappear and reappear while using Hammer Strike. In 2 days, Quinn felt like he would be ready. Inside the second year's office, a group of first years had been called into the General Duke's office. "I've made sure that the room will be empty for you tomorrow. Make sure you do as I asked. I need you to get rid of them," Duke said. "Yes, sir, we promise." "Good," Duke replied as he threw over a couple of beast crystals as well as a skill book. "You should be able to progress to level 4 with that skill. Carry on working hard and there will be more." The next day after combat classes had ended, Peter had messaged for Vorden and Quinn to come to the training room on the east side. This room was usually off-limits to students, since it was also used as a room to store portals. But after reading the contents of the message, both Quinn and Vorden had rushed over. The message simply said that Peter needed their help. While heading over to the room, Vorden and Quinn had bumped into each other. "Did you get Peter's message?" Quinn asked. "Yeah, that's why I'm here. I knew those friends of his were bad news," Vorden said. "Quinn, you stay behind. I can deal with this myself." "No way. He's my friend, too. I'm going to kick those guys' asses if it's the last thing I do." Vorden could see he was unable to convince Quinn, so the two of them continued together and had finally arrived inside the training center. The room was large, and there were several large metallic objects with an oval shape in the middle. Each one of them had a glowing circle in the middle, shining with a different color. These were the portals that took them to another world. There were 9 machines out in total, 3 of each color, and for a moment it felt like they were unable to take their eyes off the things. When they had entered the room, they could see that Peter was lying on the ground, badly hurt. He laid on the ground just in front of one of the teleporters, and it looked like he couldn't move. Quinn and Vorden looked around the room, but were unable to notice anyone. They both then rushed over to his side. He had bruise marks all over him, and he scuffed up pretty bad with scratches all over. "What happened to you? Was it those first-year students?" Vorden shouted. "Yeah, they got me pretty bad. They went out for just a moment. I don't think they're going to come back." "All right, let us pick you up," Vorden said, as he lifted Peter's hand over his shoulder. As the two of them picked up Peter, Quinn had a strange feeling. As he looked at Peter closer, he noticed that even though his clothes were badly torn, he didn't look to be in such bad a shape that he shouldn't have been able to walk. Even the bruises didn't look normal, almost as if they were drawn on. "Inspect. Peter Chuck, HP 8 of 8. "Vorden, let go of him. It's a trap," Quinn shouted. But before Vorden could even realize what was happening, Peter had broken free and immediately pushed Quinn as hard as he could. The push wasn't strong, and it didn't hurt Quinn, but it didn't need to be, because that wasn't Peter's aim. That one little push had managed to push Quinn just far enough back to the point where he had entered the portal. "What have you done?" Vorden shouted. The color of the portal was red.
As Quinn is pulled into the mysterious red portal, his fate hangs precariously in the balance. Will he be able to survive the unknown dangers that lie ahead, or will he succumb to the sinister forces that are driving the game? What secrets will be revealed about the game's true intentions, and how will Vorden react to Quinn's disappearance? As Peter stood before General Duke, he was faced with a daunting decision: betray his friends or risk everything to protect them. But what drove Peter to make the choice he did? And what will be the consequences of his actions?
The night before the incident, while Quinn was sound asleep waiting for the other two to return, Peter had been called out by the group of first years. They had added him as a friend on his communicator watch and was able to send a message whenever they wanted to call him. That night, they had asked to meet outside of the dorm room building. 5 of the first years were standing outside, including Earl. "So I see it looks like your friends seem to still trust you, and you managed to get on their team then?" Earl said as he lifted his hand to look at his watch. "Oh, didn't I say to meet here at 8:30? It looks like you're a couple of minutes late." Two of the first-year students then rushed over and grabbed Peter. One of them held his hand behind his back, while the other held out his right hand. 2 minutes late means 2 fingers, I'm afraid. Earl then held one of Peter's fingers. "Wait, I'm sorry, I needed to be careful. I had to make sure Vorden wasn't following me as you asked," Peter cried. Fine, I'll be generous," Earl said as he pushed down and snapped Peter's finger. Before Peter could even cry out in anger, he bit his tongue for fear that they might do something much worse if someone had heard him. The others watching flinched at the sight. Although they were helping Earl, even they feared him a little. It wasn't normal for someone to be able to hurt or break someone's bones so easily like that, but Earl was able to repeatedly do it easily as if it was nothing. "We will only do 1 finger then, but you know what will happen if you're late again," Earl said as one of the first years came over and started to heal Peter's finger. As the student healed Peter's finger, he could feel Peter's body shaking. His eyes half dead, the boy wanted to say he was sorry, but knew that was how the world currently was. All he had was a healing ability. He had no combat powers and had no choice but to follow those stronger than him. Otherwise, it would be him instead of Peter in this situation. "I called you out here because the general wants to have a meeting with you," Earl explained. The group of first-year students, including Peter, then started to escort him around the school. That's when Peter noticed that they had left the first-year campus building and had gone into the second-year buildings. Instead of going through the front entrance, though, they entered through the back and took the emergency exit stairs. The walk was long, but they had finally reached one of the private integration rooms for second-year students. Earl knocked on the door before entering, and only entered once he heard a voice. "Come in," the man said. As they entered the room, there was a table and 2 chairs opposite each other. Sitting in one of the seats was the General Duke, who was in charge of the second year. "You guys wait outside. I would like to talk with Peter on his own," Duke said. The first years left the room and waited patiently just outside the door. "Relax, take a seat, no need to be afraid." Peter did as Duke asked and sat in the seat, but couldn't help but wonder why the general had asked to meet him. "Peter, would you like to have the power to fight back?" Suddenly Peter's dead eyes went slightly into life again as he heard those words. "I looked at your file. You had no ability before coming here, and when you entered school we gave you the Earth ability. Right now you're only a level 1, but I can change that for you." Duke then pulled out several Earth skill books and threw them out on the table. "I know you've been saving up trying to get your hands on these. With this, you can finally get out of the level 1 power range, and with that, your troubles would go away. You would be able to graduate from school with a good grade, join a company to go hunting, and earn a good wage for the rest of your life. Sounds nice, doesn't it?" Duke said with a huge smile on his face. Peter couldn't keep his eyes off the skill books in front of him. These skill books were ones that only the military had a hold of. Now that Peter had the Earth ability, the only way he could improve his power was through these skill books. Then finally, he would no longer have to live his life in fear. "Of course, these things don't come for free. The world doesn't work like that. Those men out there work for me. They do what I say, and in return, I offer them protection within the school and outside of the school. Not only that, but they get rewarded for doing well," he said as he held up one of the skill books. "You're going on your first portal outing sometime soon, aren't you? Let me tell you, accidents happen all the time, and every year a student dies on another planet. Now information has it that maybe this year, someone from that team of yours will go missing. You're a smart boy, so I think you can understand what I'm saying. Now maybe that person will be you, maybe not." Last night it was clear to Peter what Duke was saying. Either he did what Duke said, or he was the one who would go missing. But the target was never meant to be Quinn. The target was always Vorden. When Quinn shouted and had somehow found out Peter was in on the plan, he panicked. He didn't know what to do and had pushed Quinn into the portal. His hands were now shaking as the realization had hit him. "What the hell have you done?" Vorden shouted. "I'm sorry," Peter said. "You don't understand. I had to do it." "What, let me guess, because you were being bullied? Because you were being threatened?" Vorden shouted as he continued to walk towards Peter, and at the same time, Peter would walk back. "Do you not think Quinn has been going through the same thing as you? He's a level 1 just like you. And do you think they didn't try threatening me when I was tied up and placed on that thing? So what if they hit you? They punch you and make you bleed. You can fight back. As long as you are alive, you can always fight back." Vorden then pointed towards the red portal. But what have you done? You have basically sent Quinn to death. No matter what, there is no coming back from death. He can't fight back now. Peter then fell to his knees, as his mind was in a mess. All Peter wanted was a normal school life, to go through it without any troubles. And someone was offering that to him. Maybe he took the easy way out, but he didn't feel that way. He had already gone through his own suffering. Why did he have to be the one targeted by Earl and the others? But there was one thing that Vorden said that did strike a chord with Peter. Did he ever try fighting back? He always thought it was useless. Perhaps that's what made Duke and the others think he was an easy target in the first place. Then suddenly, Vorden started grabbing his head. He started moving all over the place, swinging his head like crazy. I can't hold him back anymore, Vorden. You have to try. If he takes over, who knows when I'll get control again. The shock is too much for him. Looking at Peter is only making his emotions stronger. As Vorden looked up, Peter could see his eyes filled with tears, sadness. Then Vorden looked towards the portal. No, what are you thinking? Peter shouted. Vorden then turned around and looked at Peter. Peter, this is for your own sake, but you better hope I don't come back out of here alive. Vorden then ran straight into the red portal, his body vanishing from the room. When teleportation devices were first discovered, there was hope that they would be able to set these to travel to wherever they wanted to. Spacecraft had been invented but were unable to travel at light speeds needed to make it viable. No one knew the truth, and scientists could only theorize where exactly these portals led to. But what they did find was each of these planets harbored deadly beasts. Then, when the first beast was killed and harvested for research, the beast crystal located inside it was discovered. Inside the crystal contained a power far greater than anyone could imagine. There weren't many with powerful abilities strong enough to go against the Dalki. Their technology was too advanced compared to humans, but then a new discovery was made with the beast crystal, thanks to Richard Eno once again, and that was the discovery of beast weapons. As Vorden jumped into the red portal, he felt a tingling sensation all over his body. The world around him started to warp and displace, and his mind felt like it was melting. It wasn't a horrible feeling. In fact, the feeling received when traveling through the teleportation device even felt addicting to some. A few moments later, Vorden had arrived at his destination. He opened his eyes, and the first thing he noticed was the place was incredibly dark. The sky was black, and the only light source available was from the 2 moons outside in the distant sky. Around him were crumbled-down buildings and structures, as if at one point the place was used to live in. Vorden still had his hands held by his head, but when he opened his eyes, the pain started to go away, and his mind started to clear up. It seems like the little one has finally calmed down, Vorden said. Any longer and he might have come out and done something. What does the matter? Rayton argued. Do you even know where we are? You jumped through that red portal. Vorden then started to look at his surroundings. It was strange to see building structures around them. When there was building work, it would usually be Dalki structure, but this was clearly not Dalki-based. Aren't the red portals meant to be unsheltered planets? This place looks like a broken shelter. I think you are forgetting something, Rayton said. While orange may mean it's in the process of being taken over and sheltered being places, red can also mean it's too dangerous to build a shelter in the first place. What do you mean? Vorden asked. Are you really being so stupid? Sure, you might have run through that portal so you didn't kill your friend, but what's the point if we die instead? The only ability we have right now is that weak level 1 Earth ability. If we run into a deadly beast, we're doomed. That wasn't the only problem. Only green teleporters the public were able to use, and they were strictly monitored by the company that owned them. Meaning the only people that would be around here would be travelers. With no people around and only a beast, Vorden was stuck with his one ability, and it would only last him 24 hours. Then a thought came to Vorden's mind. Quinn. The portal was unable to send you to a pinpoint location, but it did put you in the same general area, at least within 10 miles of each other, and with the chance of the beast being around every corner, it would be hard to find Quinn. For now, Vorden would look for a portal back to the Academy while also searching for Quinn. Somewhere on the same planet, Quinn had also arrived. His heart was beating rapidly as it was the first time he had experienced such a thing. Peter, what the hell was that? Quinn thought. Damn it, he must have pushed me through the portal. Where am I? As Quinn looked around, he could see the similar buildings around him all crumbled, torn, and fallen down. However, there was one saving grace about the whole thing. On the planet it was currently nighttime, meaning Quinn didn't feel weak and had a better chance of surviving. However, before Quinn had even moved from the spot he was in, he spotted something from the corner of his eye. He was standing in the middle of a street, surrounded by crumbled buildings on both sides, but whatever was moving around was quick and was using the buildings as cover. Quinn tried to follow whatever it was with his eyes, but it would constantly move around until it had eventually stopped just underneath a pile of rubble from one of the buildings. In the movies, this is where the person would go check it out, Quinn thought, but there was no way he was going to do that. He was on an unknown planet and all alone, and whatever it was clear it didn't want him to see it. Quinn started to back away, making sure to keep an eye on where he last saw the figure. Then, when he was a safe enough distance away, he finally turned around. In that instant, a sound could be heard from behind. Quinn immediately turned around and could see a horrible figure running towards him. It clearly wasn't an ordinary animal, and something he had only ever seen in books and TV. It was a beast.
Will Vorden be able to survive the dangers of the Red Portal and find Quinn before it's too late? What secrets lie hidden on this mysterious planet, and what beasts will they have to face in order to make it out alive? Peter's dark secret is revealed, and Vorden jumps into the portal to save Quinn. Meanwhile, Quinn finds himself alone on a mysterious planet, facing a terrifying monster. Will he be able to survive against the pack of beasts?
Suddenly, Quinn could hear the sounds of something scurrying towards him at an amazing speed. As he turned, the beast was now in full sight. It was the same size as a large dog, with the head of a rodent, black in color and running on all fours. He would have said it looked like a giant rat. However, its body parts were muscular around its arms, while its body remained incredibly thin, so much so that the outline of its ribs could be seen. When the creature was a few feet away, it leapt in the air, and claws appeared from the creature's two front limbs. Quinn, almost out of instinct, swiped his hand, letting out a blood swipe. The attack managed to hit the beast and sent it flying back. The attack had caused a large cut to appear on the creature's stomach, and black blood started to leak from the wound. While the beast was taking the time to recover, Quinn decided to use his inspect skill. Name, Rataclaw. Basic tier beast. HP, ? Unlike with humans, when Quinn used the status screen, it would show their HP and blood type, but in this case, he had only received a name and the level of the beast. Seeing the tier of the beast, though, Quinn started to feel a little less frightened. He was in an unknown place, and just because the beast was small in size didn't mean it was a low tier. However, something like the Rataclaw, even Quinn should be able to deal with it. The Rataclaw had recovered and charged straight for Quinn once again. Seeing how the blood swipe was effective, he waited for the beast to get close once again. Blood swipe! But Quinn had underestimated the speed and the responsiveness of the Rataclaw. It had learned from last time what to look out for and jumped to the side, avoiding the attack. Then it dashed forward, increasing its speed, and jumped out at Quinn. Just in time, Quinn had managed to shove his gauntlet into the mouth of the beast. As its two big teeth clomped down on the gauntlet, he heard a creaking noise. Defense 1. Durability of weapon has decreased by 50%. Strength has fallen to 3. Get off me! Quinn shouted as he started swinging his arm, trying to shake the beast off, but the beast had clomped down hard, refusing to let go. With the beast stuck to his arm, it was too dangerous for him to use blood swipe, and too close for him to perform a hammer strike. All that was left was to do it the old-fashioned way. Quinn then started to repeatedly pound the beast on its head with his other hand, and with each strike, the grip started to loosen. If you had just stayed away, you could have lived, Quinn shouted as he continued to punch the beast, until finally its grip had come loose, and it had fallen to the ground. Quinn looked like he had just come off the movie off a horror set. Basic tier beast Rataclaw has been defeated. 100 EXP points gained. First basic tier beast killed. Bonus EXP awarded. 200 EXP. First time killing Rataclaw. Bonus EXP awarded. 100 EXP. 880 of 800 EXP. Multiple notifications had been received at once, and everything came as quite a shock to him. Not only did he receive more EXP for killing a beast compared to fighting against a human, but he also received bonus points too. Similar to when he faced a new power level for the first time, he had gained bonus points for killing a basic tier, as well as bonus points for killing this specific beast for the first time as well. In a way, beasts were a goldmine for his system. Congratulations, you are now level 5, race, halfling, HP 30 of 30, 40 of 1600 EXP, strength 13, 2, agility 15, stamina 12. Leveling up had given Quinn 1 extra stat point. Looking at his stats now, he decided to put the stat point into strength. Strength 14, 2. The reason for this was the skill Hammer Strike. It needed a total of 15 strength to perform. While he had the gauntlets on, they gave him an extra bonus of 3 strength, but when the Rataclaw had damaged the gauntlets, the strength dropped to 2. If his gauntlets were to be destroyed, then he would no longer be able to perform Hammer Strike correctly. So first, Quinn decided he would get his strength up to 15 before focusing on stamina and agility. But the system still had one more surprise for him. New skill unlocked, Blood Spray. Blood Spray. The user's palm must be open to perform this skill. From the user's palm, a spray of blood pellets will be realized, spreading out covering a wide range. The closer the attack is to its target, the more damage it will do. Cost, -5 HP. The skill reminded Quinn of a shotgun he used to watch from the old movies, where the small pellets would spread out hitting multiple targets. The problem was the cost of the skill. 5 HP was a huge amount, and even with his blood bank, Quinn would have to be careful when using it. The plus side was that it was a skill designed to hit more than one opponent. If Quinn had Layla around, he would like to test the blood spray out, but he didn't know how long he would be stuck here, so it was best to reserve his HP and as much blood as possible. Quinn then walked up to the dead beast on the ground. Looking at the black blood, it didn't seem appetizing at all. He wasn't drawn to it like regular human blood, and it didn't give off a sweet fragrance either. Still, there might come a time where Quinn was required to drink it, so he needed to test it out. Inspect. Rataclaw blood. If blood is consumed, is poisonous to the body. -1 HP for every millimeter of blood consumed. It was expected. The signs were a giveaway that his body was telling him to stay away. I wonder why my body only accepts human blood. The system had been oddly specific when his body started to require blood. This made Quinn think that even the blood of animals wouldn't work, even though some were red in color just like humans. The last thing he needed to do was rip or cut the body open and look for the beast core inside. It was a small crystal located in a different part of the body, depending on the beast. This could be used to either create more beast weapons and armor, or even be sold for credits. Both of these would be a big bonus for him. Suddenly, though, the sound of something running was heard again. As Quinn looked up, the sight of 10 Rataclaws running in his direction. Although basic tier creatures were weak, it was odd for them to travel alone, and Quinn had just gotten lucky. After struggling to face just against one, he knew he had no chance against 10. All he could do was run. He ran down the empty street, not knowing where he was heading. But the Rataclaws were fast and would soon catch up. That's when Quinn spotted a building, one that was far less damaged than the others. He went inside, but the space was still too large. He then spotted a stairway to his right nearby. After quickly running up the stairway and reaching the first platform, he stopped and turned. He knew he had no choice but to fight back. The staircase was narrower than the rooms, and he had the high ground. With his palm open facing downward, he was ready. Time to test you out. Standing on top of the platform, Quinn had a clear view of the giant rat-like creatures coming towards him. He aimed carefully, and then when they were about halfway up the stairs, he activated his skill. Blood Spray! 25 of 30 HP. His arm jerked back as the skill activated, and a strong force of blood left his hand spreading out. The 5 rats out in front were sent flying back and toppling down the stairs. However, the shot had only hit the ones in front, and the rats behind quickly climbed over their fallen comrades. Quinn decided to head further up the stairs to create more distance between him and the rats, but then he could see there was a huge problem in front of him. Part of the ceiling from the floor above had crumbled and collapsed onto the staircase, blocking his way. There was no longer any space for Quinn to go up. He turned around and the rats were just starting to ascend the second set of stairs. The rats from before were quick to make a recovery and were behind them as well. This time, Quinn held out both hands with his palm wide open. Blood Spray. The first spray of blood left his hands and knocked the rats over. Then, when the group behind them started to ascend, he cast blood spray again with his other hand. 20 of 30 HP. 15 of 30 HP. The rats had fallen over and were badly hurt by the attack, but knew they would soon recover. There were several small holes over their body where blood would leak from, but they just weren't deep enough to cause any serious damage. He made sure to keep his distance away from them and stayed on top of the stairs. Although blood spray was good at hitting multiple targets, it wasn't as strong as blood swipe. Only the force of knocking them back was powerful. If Quinn was to get close, he was afraid that the rats might recover and surround him, so there was only one thing he could do. He started swinging his hands out rapidly, aiming carefully at each rat. Blood swipe, blood swipe, blood swipe. As the red claw-like lines left his hands, at the same time he could hear multiple messages ding in his head. Rataclaw has been defeated. 100 EXP. 14 of 30 HP. Rataclaw has been defeated. 100 EXP. 13 of 30 HP. The messages continued onward, until eventually all of the rats had been killed. Quinn then fell to the floor on his knees, gasping for air. The continued use of blood swipes along with his new skill, blood spray, had tired him out. 5 of 30 HP. Blood bank has auto-activated. 30 of 30 HP. 50 milliliters remaining in blood bank. 1040 of 1600 EXP. Congratulations, blood swipe has reached level 2. Chapter mid. After sitting down for a few minutes and recovering his stamina, Quinn was finally able to stand. He took a moment to take in all of the messages he had received. Only half of his blood bank now remained. As long as he didn't get injured, he only needed to consume 10 milliliters of blood every 2 days. This meant the remaining blood in his bank would last him a total of 10 days. He didn't know how long he would be on this planet, but he needed to be careful about using his skills. If he got into a situation where he needed to fight, he needed to use his fists, and only rely on his blood skills in an emergency like in this scenario. Who knew if there was another human being on this planet? There were only 2 good things that had come out of the whole situation. The fact that his blood swipe skill had leveled up. There was no change in the description on how it worked, but assuming it had now leveled up, he hoped it was now stronger. If the system was like a game, then it meant the more he used the skill, the quicker it would level up. The only thing Quinn was unsure about was whether or not using the blood swipe in the game had helped it level up quicker. There was no way for him to tell, as there was no experience bar for his skills. The second good thing that had come out of this was the EXP he had gained. To gain the same amount of experience points as he had just gained at this moment, he would have had to play the game for days. Quinn then walked up to the dead beasts on the floor. Before, when he had killed the first Rataclaw, he didn't have time to extract the beast's crystal from its body, but inside the building, it seemed like he was safe from other creatures. Using the tip of his gauntlets, he tore open the beasts. He searched around inside the chest, looking for a glowing crystal. Usually, someone doing this for the first time, it would affect them. Maybe they would have even thrown up a few times, searching around inside the organs of the beast. But for some reason, Quinn felt like he was unaffected, and it didn't bother him at all. He couldn't help but think ever since he had become a halfling, his view on what was normal and what wasn't was changing. After searching around for a while, Quinn finally found it. It was a small, round crystal ball with tiny little bumps all over, and around the same size as an adult's fist. Basic tier beast crystal obtained. Would you like to store it in your inventory? Then another message appeared. Inventory? Quinn thought. You mean I had one this whole time? Quinn selected the yes option, and suddenly the crystal in his hand slowly started to vanish away, and finally it had completely disappeared. He then opened up his status screen, and now there was a tab for inventory. As he selected the tab, he could see the single beast crystal stored inside. I wonder if I can put anything else in there. Quinn then tried using his mind to store his gauntlets into the inventory. If he could store weapons and other things, it would be really handy for future trips. He tried and tried, but nothing appeared from the system. Whenever he wanted to do something with the system in the past, all he had to do was think about it, and it would work. But even taking off the gauntlets and touching them, thinking about the inventory while wearing them, nothing seemed to work. although he was able to make the crystal he had obtained appear into his hand and back into the inventory at will. Quinn then went to extract the crystals from the remaining 9 rats. Each time he did it, he found it easier than the last to locate it inside the body, and every time he held a crystal in his hand, the system message would appear. Basic Tier Beast Crystal 10. He had collected all 10 and couldn't help but feel pleased with himself. The beast crystals could be used to turn into beast weapons or beast armor, but looking at the rat-like creature, Quinn had no idea what it could be used for. Every beast crystal, depending what beast it had come from, had a different use, and you could try to figure it out from what the beast was like. For example, if a beast crystal was obtained from a large, turtle-like creature, then it would likely be a defensive item that could be crafted. Maybe it could be turned into a shield or even a good piece of chest armor. But regardless, even if the item created Quinn had no use for, the least he could do was sell the basic tier beast crystals. Each crystal sold would sell for a total of 10 credits, which meant he could either use the money to purchase beast gear himself, or he could use it to spend more time in the game. After tinkering around in his system and his stamina fully recovered, Quinn decided to try to climb up to the roof of the building. Even though the building he was in was safe, he was on a strict time scale and needed to find the portal back fast. He walked around and looked for any cracks and gaps he could see in the stairs. Eventually, after making a few detours, he had reached the top of the building. The building was about 3 stories high and wasn't the biggest, but at least now he had a better view of where he was. As he looked around, all he could see were buildings that resembled human structures. That's when he spotted something. One of the buildings, without a doubt, had the same crest as the school he attended. So this really is a human shelter, but then why is it all ruined and destroyed? The building was large in size and square-like, but only 2 stories high. Out of all the buildings around, it was in better shape than all the others. Quinn had recognized the building as they had one in the city he was currently in. It was the military storage room. It was where they kept all their high-end equipment, ability books, skill books, and beast weapons. There's a good chance the portal might be located in there. Quinn then started to smile. Even if there isn't, I can't waste this opportunity.
What will Quinn find in the military storage room? Will he be able to locate the portal back home? What other dangers or surprises await him on this ruined planet?
Unknown to the students at the school, there was currently chaos going on between the upper staff. Faye, one of the sergeants of the school, was walking down the hallway at incredible speed. Even though she was only walking, she was causing gusts of wind to hit the students as she walked past them. A single wooden door in the first-year building had a sign out front saying the words General on it. Faye barged the door open and quickly zoomed to Nathan's desk. The wind that came along with her caused papers to be flown and scattered all over the room. "Hey, I was nearly done with that," Nathan shouted. "The portals have been used," Faye shouted. 2 students seem to have been registered to have gone through them. Nathan started to pick up the papers that were scattered around the room one by one. "Is that all? Well, why don't you just go and get them back?" "I'm afraid it's because they have gone through a red portal, sir." Nathan then dropped all the piles of paper he had picked up from the floor. "What? How did this happen? Weren't there meant to be guards stationed at the portal? Apparently there was a scheduling conflict. When the guards changed shifts, their replacements never arrived." Nathan then went to sit back in his chair as he struggled to think what to do. "Stupid parents. This is why I said we should have cameras stationed in the school, but it was hard enough to allow them to get those trackers put on them." The original families had a big say in what went on and what didn't. "Do we know which students have gone through the portal?" "The first one is the student by the name of Quinn Talon, and the second one is Vorden Blade." "Him again?" After the incident with the second years, Nathan decided to look into Vorden's family background a bit more, and if they were to find out, this would be bad news. Make sure his family don't learn anything. We have to keep this a secret for as long as we can. As class had started for the day, Layla noticed that Vorden and Quinn weren't in their seats. However, Peter was in his, and he had his head face down looking at the ground. "Hey, Peter, do you know where Vorden and Quinn are today?" she asked. "I didn't do anything," Peter snapped. "Huh? What?" Layla said, confused. "I was asking if you knew where Quinn and Vorden were. Did they not come back to the dorm room yesterday?" "Oh, sorry. Yeah, they were there when I went back," Peter said with his voice all shaky. "I don't know why they haven't come to class this morning." "They wouldn't miss today. We're meant to go out portal hunting as a team." Just then, Dell had entered the room. He didn't have his usual cheery face on, and instead had a bland, serious look. "I'm afraid that I have to inform you all that today's portal outing has been cancelled for now." Upon hearing the news, the students groaned and complained. "Quiet down," Dell said loudly. Erin had then come over to where Layla was. "Yesterday, while I was walking by two students, they overheard the sergeant shouting at the general, something about two students going into the portals. My guess is that's the reason why this whole thing has been delayed in the first place." Layla then stood up from her seat and grabbed Erin by the shoulders. "Don't you see? Vorden and Quinn have to be the missing students. No wonder Dell didn't say anything about them." As she turned her head, she looked Peter dead in the eye. As soon as Layla took a step forward, Peter got out of his seat and ran for it. "Erin, we have to get Peter. He knows something. A person who isn't guilty doesn't run away for no reason." As class ended, the students continued to speak, and it turned out that Layla wasn't the only one who was concerned about where Vorden and Quinn went. "Any idea about the other two?" Erin said bluntly. "No, I have no idea. Do you want to go look for them with me?" Layla asked nicely. "No thanks," Erin replied. "Now that the portal training has been delayed, I am in no rush to find them. But I came over to tell you some news I heard some students talking about. Yesterday, while I was walking by two students, they overheard the sergeant shouting at the general, something about two students going into the portals. My guess is that's the reason why this whole thing has been delayed in the first place." "Wait, what did you say?" "Don't you see? Vorden and Quinn have to be the missing students. No wonder Dell didn't say anything about them." Then suddenly it felt like she was being handed pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, one by one. But there was still one missing piece, and she knew exactly the person who could give her the last piece. Peter felt like Layla was staring into his soul. This whole time he had been worried. What if someone had seen him leave the portal room? What if the other first years reported it was him? Then when Layla had spoken to him in the morning, he slipped up. He was trying so hard to act natural, it had the opposite effect. As soon as Layla took a step forward, Peter got out of his seat and ran for it. "Erin, we have to get Peter. He knows something." "What makes you think that?" Erin asked. "A person who isn't guilty doesn't run away for no reason." Blood was dripping from the top of his head and started to go trickle down to his eyebrow. He lifted his hand to wipe the blood while holding a dagger made of mud in his other hand. "What did I say? You got us killed, Vorden. Will you shut up unless you want to fight the damn thing instead? Fine then, let me take control of the seat, and I'll fight this damned rat." Vorden then left the seat in his mind and allowed Rayton to take his place. When Rayton sat down, he took control of the body. Meanwhile, Vorden walked off into the darkness, and inside was another figure that looked just like Vorden, only they were sitting on the floor swaying backwards and forwards. Their fingers would constantly roll around each other, and part of his shirt was in his mouth. "How are you holding up? Are you feeling better?" Vorden asked. "Yeah, is Quinn going to be okay?" he said as he continued to sway backwards and forwards. "I'm sure he's fine. You know he's special. We all did from the moment we first met him. Special, just like Kaser was, and Marlin, and Fufu. But they all died as well." Vorden gulped as he could see the swaying getting faster. "This time is different. Me and Rayton are here to protect you. You can stay here as long as you want, and when you're ready, you can come out once again. Leave all the talk to me, all the fighting to Rayton, and we can do this together." The swaying started to slow down, and at the same time so did Vorden's nerves. As Vorden went to walk back to the seat, he could see that Rayton had already dealt with the beast rather quickly. "Did you really have to go that far?" Vorden asked. "That cheeky little crap ruined our body. I can't let it get away with that." Vorden then proceeded to carve out the beast crystals from the two rats and place them in his trouser leg pocket. "I come in peace," the man said with his arms lifted up. Vorden walked over to the traveler cautiously. It was rare to even meet a traveler in this type of place, and who knew what the man's true intentions were. Someone had to be at least a decent skill level to be asked to enter a red portal planet. "Don't worry, I won't bite," the man said. "What's a kid like you doing in a place like this? I didn't know the military was that desperate that they were now sending a single student to a hellhole like this. I got stuck here. It was an accident, and I need to find a way out." "Looks like we both have the same goal at least," the traveler said. "The name's Ian. I came through another portal and was hunting out a beast in the wild. I was badly hurt and too far away from the original portal, so in a last-ditch effort I decided to come to this abandoned shelter. You're quite skillful to have defeated two of them on your own, especially for someone as young as yourself. You have my thanks. I was too badly hurt from the beast before. That Rataclaw had chased me into the warehouse, and I was waiting for it to go away. I never expected someone else to be here in this shelter." "You're welcome," Forden replied. "Well, since we both have the same goal anyway, do you have any idea where the portal could be?" "Sure. There were a few buildings I spotted on my way over here. It's best if we check them out first." "The name's Borden." "I look forward to us working together." "Do you know when the sun will rise?" Borden asked. "Maybe it will be best if we travel once the sunlight comes out, then we can spot beasts easier." "You really don't know where we are, do you?" Ian replied. "This planet's spin cycle lasts an entire year, and right now we're only 6 months in. I'm afraid we won't be seeing light for a very long time." Once the two of them were ready, they decided to head back outside, while Ian took the lead. They made sure to travel close to the buildings, rather than in the middle of the street. If anything spotted them, they could quickly dart inside for combat. "Hey, Borden, I have an idea," Rayton said. "Why don't we the adventure while he's weak and get that crystal of his? We could sell it for a fortune, or even make some really good equipment out of the thing." "Are you an idiot? Once we kill him, then what would we do? His ability would only last for 24 hours. If we don't find a way out of here in time, we would be completely done for." Then suddenly Ian stopped as he spotted something. "Look over there," Ian pointed. In the middle of the street lay a single dead Rataclaw. The two of them looked around before proceeding to move closer to it. "It looks like it wasn't killed too long ago and had its heads been pounded in," Ian said as he bent down to get a closer look. Then he suddenly pulled out a beast crystal. Whoever it was, they didn't have time to remove the beast crystal. They were probably being chased by something else. "Actually," Forden said out loud, "I wasn't the only one who came through here by accident. My friend came here with me, and I was actually hoping to find him." "I won't ask for details," Ian said, "but don't get your hopes up. I was surprised to see you alive, never mind your friend." Ian felt like he should try to help out. He started to inspect the Rataclaw on the floor and found a trail of black blood. "Come on, let's go see if we can find that friend of yours." The two of them continued to follow the trail until it eventually led them to a 3-story building. As they entered the first floor, it was mostly empty with no signs of anything, but Ian decided to continue to follow the trail of black blood that led up the set of stairs. "What happened here?" Ian thought. As they walked up the first set, they could see more and more black blood splattered everywhere on the walls. Then, when they walked up even further, the two of them were stunned at the scene. Lying on the ground were 10 Rataclaws died, completely still, each one with their beast crystal carved out. "Who did this? Are there more people here? Maybe another team on a mission?" Ian said. "I'm sorry, I thought perhaps the Rataclaw outside was killed by your student friend, but it looks like I was wrong. You would need at least a small team to take out 10 at once like this." The two of them then decided to climb to the roof. They stood on top of the roof and looked down. That's when the two of them spotted something. "Get down quick," Ian said. It was a beast that walked on 6 legs, 3 on each side. Its body stood upright like that of a human, while the bottom half was like that of a scorpion. It was a hideous beast that clearly wasn't from Earth. "An intermediate beast," Ian said. "Hey, what's that building?" Borden asked. "Could the portal be inside there?" "That's the storage room," Ian answered. "I doubt the portal would be inside there. Usually those places get targeted by thieves and such, and even if it was in there, it would be best if we let the beast leave first." Quinn had left the other building and slowly started to make his way to the storage room. He had no clue when the sun would rise and needed a place to stay for the night. Not only that, but he was hoping that he might come across some treasures at the storage room. On his way, he spotted a few Rataclaws feasting on something in the middle of the street. "Damn, they're everywhere, just like rats back on Earth," Quinn thought. Quinn continued to head towards the storage building until finally he had arrived. At the front, there were 2 large steel doors which slid open. Afraid that they might make a lot of noise and attract unwanted attention, he decided to walk around the building to see if there were any other openings or entrances. With his back hugging the side of the wall, he peeked out to take a look. It seemed like there was another Rataclaw, only this one was squealing and on its back in pain. Its cries were weak, and he wondered just how long had the beast been there for. He came out from the side of the wall and walked up to the injured Rataclaw on its back. As he got closer to it, the Rataclaw snarled at Quinn and tried to swipe its claws out. "Still trying to kill me even in this state," Quinn thought. "Let me put you out of your pain." He walked up to the beast, and with a single blow to its head, it had died. As Quinn looked at the back of the building, he could see a small hole in one of the corners. Did the Rataclaw come out from there? Before entering, he gulped at the thought that perhaps whatever injured the rat might be inside. Crawling on his front, he had reached the hole and tried to pop his head in. It was big enough for a human to fit through, but what he was afraid of was inside the building. He crawled through the hole and entered into the hangar. Nearly everything inside had been destroyed. There were no airships, mechs, and no beast weapons. He started to walk around the hangar for a while, until eventually there was a room stationed in the corner. He walked up to the room, and there was a single steel door with a passcode device next to it. The door was military grade, which meant even those with abilities would find it hard to break it down. But it was clear to him that whatever was in the container had yet to be destroyed, and most likely whatever was inside was important stuff worth locking. Should I try Hammer Strike on it? He looked at the passcode on the side and pressed 4 random digits before pressing the enter button. Beep! Of course I'm not that lucky, he thought. Looking at the lock again, his gut was telling him to try it. Quinn then did as his inspect skill said and touched the lock. Nothing happened, but then he used the inspect skill one more time. Quinn immediately tested out the number the system had given him. Beep! Ka-chuk! The door then made an unlocking sound and swung open. Seeing that the intermediate beast was patrolling around the storage room, Ian and Vorden had decided to go to a different part of the shelter. Any ideas of where the portal might be? Vorden asked. My guess is somewhere underground. It's safe for most of the beasts that way. Most likely they have a special building that looks like any other and a secret entrance. Wait, so are you saying we just have to keep going into buildings? Well, we can rule out all the residential buildings. They wouldn't be able to build a large enough base under those, and any of the small buildings or dangerous areas you can rule out as well. There are only so many big buildings that would be large enough to store a big base under. The two of them continued to look into building after building, but there was no luck or no sign of a secret room. Eventually, they entered what looked like a library. That's when a loud rumbling sound had come from Vorden's belly. I guess we've been traveling for a while now. Why don't we rest here for the night? Doesn't look like there are any beasts here, and we can build our own fortress, Ian said. There were large holes and broken-down walls on the first floor, which made it easy for beasts to attack them. Once they had reached the second floor, the two of them started to lift up a few of the bookshelves. It seemed like Ian had the ability of super strength, seeing how easily he moved the heavy bookshelves, but Vorden knew that wasn't true. The reason why Ian seemed like he had extra strength was actually from the beast armor he was wearing. Vorden helped out in his own way by clearing a space and moving all the books and piles of rubbish away. After an hour or so, they were done. It's a nice home, isn't it? Ian said proudly of his work. Well, what are you waiting for? Come on, let's go inside. He then pulled out a little small stone from his pocket and placed it on the ground in the center of the room. He tapped the stone once, and a warm orange light started to shine from it. Here, take this, Ian said as he handed a small circle pill to Vorden. Is this a food supplement? Vorden asked. Yeah, I'm guessing if you came here by accident, you don't have any with you. Vorden looked at the pill before shoving it down his throat and into the stomach. A food supplement was a pill that contained all the things a human needed to live. As long as a person took 1 pill of these a day, they no longer needed to eat. You'll get some sleep and I'll keep watch. Then we'll do a little switch later on, Ian said. Sounds good? Yeah. As he heard the sound of the door unlocking, a grin appeared on his face. I love you, system. I swear I'll never talk badly about you ever again, Quinn said as he stepped into the container. But as he stepped in, his hopes of finding legendary beast equipment or stashes of beast crystals were soon lost. The room was simply filled with shelves of books. Nothing else but books. However, as soon as Quinn picked up one of the books closest to him, his mind had quickly changed. It was a container room filled with ability and skill books. Although Quinn was unable to learn the ability, he immediately converted the book into EXP points. As soon as Quinn decided to convert the book into EXP, it started to vanish in his very hands, as if it was disintegrating. After absorbing the first book, Quinn started to pick up book after book. After going through the books, Quinn found out that a level 1 skill book would give him 5 EXP points, while a level 1 ability book would give him 10 EXP points. Quinn got closer to the back of the container and found that the level of books would increase. After leveling up, Quinn immediately put his stat point into strength, and now without his gauntlets, his strength was at 15, meaning he would be able to perform the hammer strike skill with or without the gauntlets. As Quinn looked around the room, there were still several books he hadn't even touched yet. The place really was a goldmine for him. As he went onto the next set of shelves, With it came a new set of books. He placed his hand on the first one, and it was the first level 3 ability book he had come across. Quinn placed the book down and picked the book up, making sure he had heard the system right. But once again, the numbers he had received were correct. The level 3 ability book was offering him 1,000 experience points. He once again went on rampage, grabbing every book he could on the shelf, absorbing those that he couldn't and tossing the others on the ground. No new skills were unlocked, but Quinn still obtained the regular stat points for every level up. Now that his strength and agility were at level 15, he decided he should finally increase his stamina points. Quinn had now nearly touched every single book that was in the storage room. Unfortunately, the highest ability Quinn was able to find so far was a level 3 ability book. The further he went into the container, the higher the levels, but for the last few shelves it didn't seem to be the case. It seemed like they were just duplicates of the other level 3 ability books. As Quinn picked up one book, the system message didn't go off. It was because it was a level 3 Earth ability book that he had already absorbed. Hey, maybe Peter could use this, Quinn thought. It was only one book. Quinn was sure he would be able to carry it safely with him. But as soon as he thought about Peter, a memory entered his mind, and it wasn't a good one. Peter was the whole reason why he was in this place. And he still didn't know how long he was going to be here, or if he would even be able to survive. To be honest, Quinn was just trying to make the best out of a bad situation at the moment. As he thought about Peter, anger started to enter his mind and body, and he ripped the book up. Then, as Quinn looked around the container, he noticed there was one shelf at the very back of the room where he hadn't been yet. He didn't bother going over there yet because it looked empty from a distance, but as he got closer, he noticed there was a single book that had been placed there. As he touched the book on the shelf, a new message appeared. Out of shock, Quinn dropped the book back onto the shelf and took a step back. Ability is compatible with system. Would you like to learn? Out of all the books in the room, it was the first time he had ever received a message of this kind. Then Quinn started to think back to the name of the ability, Shadow Element. It was something he had never even heard of before, and Quinn was quite knowledgeable about the abilities of the world. After thinking about it for a long time, he decided he would try to place the book in his storage. And to his surprise, it worked. The ability book was safely put into his system storage with his beast crystals. Before learning the ability, Quinn wanted to make sure he could find out more about it first. Maybe then he could find out why it was compatible with his vampire system, and if so, maybe they were other abilities that would be compatible as well. After storing the book away, he decided to close the door to the container unit and remain inside. It was safe here, and he was starting to feel tired. At least he knew the container was strong enough to protect him from whatever beast remained outside. He lied on the floor, and in an instant, closed his eyes. His body was pressed against the cold, hard floor. His eyelids slowly started to open, and all he could see was a white light. For a moment, while Quinn was sleeping, he had forgotten about everything that happened. But as soon as he looked around him and realized where he was, and he knew that everything wasn't a dream. Right now, he wasn't at the school, but was on a completely different planet miles away from home. It was a surprise that he slept so well on the floor without a bed. Without realizing it, he was more exhausted than he thought. Your hunger grows. Daily quest complete. Avoid direct sunlight for 8 hours. And at last, the system message had appeared. This meant that in one more day's time, the system would inform him that he needed to consume human blood. He was okay for now, as he still had 50 milliliters of blood in his bank. As long as he didn't get in any more fights, he would be fine. The most important thing for him to do now was to find that portal. As he went to open the steel door, Quinn was half expecting that the sun might be out. After all, the message appearing meant it was a new day. But as he opened the door, he was surprised to see it was still night out. However, his mind was quickly distracted by something else. Quinn immediately closed the door back up to the container. He placed his hand on his chest, feeling his heart beating at an incredible speed. What was that? Quinn thought. That was no rat, that's for sure. This time, Quinn went to the steel door again. He placed his hand on the metallic handle once again and slowly opened the door to take a peek, and as he did, a large beast stood inside the hangar. With the body of a human but the bottom half of a scorpion-like creature, Quinn couldn't make out what it was. From the human half of its body, it also had 2 claws on each side. Inspect. Score data. Intermediate level beast. After finding out what little information was available about the beast, Quinn quickly closed the door once again. Although Quinn had grown 3 levels while inside the container, he still felt like dealing with an intermediate beast would almost be impossible for him. The weakest of intermediate beasts were at least 10 times stronger than a basic tier beast. Of course, this would depend on the beast, for there were some beasts that were just easier to deal with than others, no matter what tier they were at. But looking at the creature, Quinn could tell it would be a tough battle. After waiting for what felt like a considerable amount of time, he decided to open the door once again to check if the beast was still there, and unfortunately, it was. That was when Quinn noticed something else that was in the hangar that wasn't there before. There were 3 round objects right next to the Scordana, placed in a pile of scrap metal. Are those eggs? Quinn thought. Inspect. Scordana eggs, intermediate beast level. As he saw the eggs, a horrible thought had entered his mind. Quinn hadn't noticed them before, meaning she must have just laid them out while he was in the container, or they might have been hidden somewhere. But the first was more likely. Now the fact that her eggs were here meant the beast would protect them until they hatched, or at least it wouldn't be moving for a while. This felt like a risky option for Quinn, for he himself was on a time frame. Then there was the second option. If the Scordana had just given birth, then there was a chance she was weaker compared to usual. With the second option, he had to make a decision as soon as possible. In the end, Quinn gritted his teeth and stepped out of the container. Before even thinking of fighting against the beast, he would try his best to sneak out. The entrance to the front of the hangar was completely destroyed. The beast, when entering, had ripped apart the 2 metallic doors before coming in. The problem was, the beast was blocking that exit, but that still left Quinn with the small hole in the wall from where he had entered. Carefully moving in between piles of scrap metal and rubbish, Quinn slowly moved across the room to the other side where he had first entered. Then, when he finally had reached the hole, he could see something else entering from the other side. It was a Rataclaw. No! As soon as the Rataclaw pulled its body through the small hole, it immediately looked up to see Quinn. Before he even had a chance to run away, Rataclaw started squealing like mad. Shut up! Why did you have to come here now of all times? Then the sound of several steps was heard from behind. Quinn didn't have time to turn around to know what it was, but he did so anyway, and as he did, a giant claw was swung down towards his head. Now that the Scordana had spotted Quinn, he had no choice but to stand his ground and fight. As the scorpion creature turned, it immediately started charging forward. Hoping to scare it away and do some damage, Quinn let out 2 blood swipes. As the blood swipe made impact, the scorpion was pushed back a few steps, but no damage could be seen, not even a white scratch mark on the claws. As Quinn looked and inspected the creature even closer, he could see that every part of the beast was covered in some type of shell, apart from the upper body. That was the beast's weak point, and that's where he needed to hit. Then as Quinn readied his hand to cast his blood swipe skill, he felt a sharp pain in his back. As he looked up, he could see something connected to his body, and when he followed it, it went behind the beast. The beast then lifted Quinn with the tail and chucked him hard up against the wall. As he fell to the ground, his HP had taken a huge hit. As Quinn looked into his stomach, he could see a large puncture had been created, and blood was quickly flowing out of his body. Critical hit, 10 of 45 HP. Blood bank empty, 35 of 45 HP. With his health nearly full, his wounds had healed up almost instantly, and Quinn was able to move once again. Looking at the scorpion, he noticed the tail truly wasn't there. Is it able to take it into his body and out at will? This is going to be a pain. There were no more second chances. A battle of strength was being displayed between the two. The red swipes were powerful and started to knock the beast back, and eventually, even the claws started to crack, but neither of them gave up. 13 of 45 HP. When the beast was close enough, finally the tail was revealed from above. While its claws covered and blocked its body from the swipes, its plan was to attack from above with its long, large tail. As it fired its tail downward, just before the tail could pierce Quinn again, flash step! Suddenly, Quinn was no longer in front of the scorpion, and now was directly behind it. Hammer strike! Then a few moments later, the beast had collapsed to the ground, and so had Quinn, completely exhausted. As he lifted his hands, his gauntlets had completely shattered. Scordana has been killed, 1,000 EXP. First intermediate beast kill, 5,000 EXP. First Scordana killed, 2,000 EXP. Right now he had a serious problem. His health was incredibly low. 13 of 45 HP, and with his blood bank empty, there was no way for him to heal it back to normal. After waiting a few moments for his stamina to rise back up, he walked up to the dead Scordana's body. Finally, after tearing and rummaging through several limbs, the beast crystal was obtained and stored in his system once again. Now, Quinn looked at the eggs in the room. As he went forward, he lifted one of the eggs. He took a few steps back before lifting it into the air and slamming it into the ground. Black blood had been splattered all across the floor, and a little half-grown scorpion could be seen inside. Scordana egg killed 1,000 EXP. Congratulations, you are now level 9, 13 of 50 HP. The system hadn't given his health back like he thought it might have done. Your hunger grows. You can no longer suppress your need for blood. Your HP will decrease by -1 HP every hour until you have consumed human blood. Due to Quinn's energy and most of his blood being used in the fight earlier, his body was now no longer naturally healing itself. He was too hungry to heal and would need blood. With 13 points, that's 13 hours before I reach 0, and that's only if I don't use any of my skills or get injured along the way. I have no choice. I have to try to find the portal, Quinn said. Before leaving the hangar, Quinn had to think hard about just where the portal would be. All he knew was that they had to place it somewhere safe. Somewhere the beasts wouldn't be able to get to it. As he walked through the city, he decided to tread very carefully. Once in a while, he would come across a building with beasts inside. As he entered the buildings, there would be cases where Quinn had spotted them far up ahead in the darkness. He quickly would shift and hide in the shadows or behind walls, waiting for the beast to leave, and when he was ready, he would zoom past and around. 11 of 50 HP. The hunger in his belly was starting to distract him, and it was getting harder for him to focus as his health had gone down. Then finally, Quinn had spotted another building that was relatively in good condition. The training center, a place where travelers could come and test out their skills or practice with new equipment. As Quinn got closer to the dome building, he noticed that there were several mechs stationed outside that had been destroyed, their cores completely ripped out. Mechs were a powerful device used in the war, but to power them they required an incredibly powerful beast crystal of a high tier. As he reached the entrance of the training center, he could see that 2 Rataclaws were standing out in front of the building. He decided to wait a little longer, hoping that the Rataclaws might move. 10 of 50 HP. But as he saw the message bring his health down once again, he was only getting even more aggravated. The rats didn't look like they would be leaving anytime soon, and Quinn needed to come up with a plan. As Quinn looked around him, he found a broken piece of the mech nearby. He picked it up and looked off into the distance. Using all his strength, he threw the piece of metal a great distance. The piece of metal landed exactly where he was aiming for, making a large clang sound as it fell on the mech. The rats then looked up at where the noise was coming from and quickly scurried off in the direction of the sound. This is my chance. Quinn, using all the powers in his legs, bolted for the entrance. He tried pushing the steel doors open, but there was no luck. As he looked around the door for anything, he spotted another access code machine. He immediately rushed forward, placing his hand on the machine and used his inspect skill. I hope these works don't let me down. An access code machine linked to the 2 steel doors. The combination is 333-462-53778. However, just as Quinn was inputting the code into the machine, the Rataclaws had returned. As the beasts saw him, they shrieked and called out another 2 of its friends. There were now 4 of the things. Come on! Come on! Beep! Damn, I must have put in the wrong number. He used his inspect skill once again, making sure he had the right code. He started inputting the numbers again when he suddenly felt something chomp down onto his leg. 9 of 50 HP. As he looked down, it was one of the rats, and the other 3 weren't too far behind it. The other 3 were now too close, and he no longer had any time to input the code. Flash step! Then Quinn was suddenly behind them, but he was still too close to the 4 rats. Flash step only had a distance of 5 meters at most. The rats turned, and all ran forward towards him. I have no choice! He held out his palm and fired. Blood burst! A shotgun-like spray of blood was released from his hand, and it knocked back all 4 of the rats, killing the already injured one. 4 of 50 HP, 100 EXP. He then rushed forward to one of the rats on the ground, held both hands together, and slammed it down on another rat's head, killing the second one. 100 EXP. Now the other 2 rats had recovered, and were quickly after Quinn once again. Out of desperation, he swung his hands and activated his blood swipe, although this time, The blood swipes were strong, and it killed each one in a single attack. 100 EXP, 100 EXP, 850 of 25,600 EXP, 2 of 50 HP. With his time running incredibly low, Quinn didn't even bother to get out the beast crystals. He went up to the door this time inputting the code correctly, and as he entered, he shut the door behind him, making sure it was locked. He was now in what looked like a reception area, a canteen of sorts, with several seats and a desk at the front. With his health running low, he had less than 2 hours to find the portal. Quinn fell to his knees in despair. He felt like this was his last chance. There was no way he had the time to go walking around the city looking for another room with a portal. 1 of 50 HP. So this is how my life ends, huh? Quinn said. Mom, Dad, why did you leave me on my own? Why did you give me this book? I thought when I got this book maybe I might be able to change something, but I guess not. Then the final hour had passed. 0 of 50 HP. HP has reached 0 due to hunger. Transformation will now begin. That night, Borden struggled to sleep, just like every other night. He couldn't remember the last time he got a good night's sleep. That's when he felt a slight tug on his arm. Hey, wake up, kid. Looks like you were having a nightmare, Ian said. As Borden opened his eyes, he looked around and noticed that he was still in the pitch-black room. Oh, sorry about that. I hope I wasn't making too much noise, Borden replied. Well, this is a scary place. A kid like you shouldn't be here on their own in the first place, so don't worry about it, said Ian. Do you mind if we swap for a bit? Ian then switched places with Borden. While Ian lied on the uncomfortable hard floor, Borden would look out for the gaps in the bookshelf, keeping watch. Hey, Borden, if you aren't going to kill him now, what about when we find the portal? Brayton asked. The advanced crystal he is carrying would be very helpful to us, and no one would find out. You've seen how weak he is, and now we have his ability, it would be easy to finish him off. While I'm in charge, nobody gets hurt, Borden replied, getting annoyed. After waiting what felt like an entire day, it seemed like Ian had finally woken up. I'm telling you, I can't wait to get home, Ian said. Borden turned around to look to Ian, seeing that he was struggling to get up. He offered his hand once again and pulled him up from the floor. But as Ian got off the ground, his face suddenly dropped. In one of the holes he had made, all that could be seen was a single large eyeball looking through. Ian immediately went to his waist and grabbed a small dagger, throwing it at the beast's eye. Then, when he pulled his hand back, the dagger flew back into his hand. Let's get out of here, Ian shouted, as he kicked one of the shelves, knocking it over. As the two of them climbed on top of the fallen shelf, they could see that they had been surrounded. I thought you were keeping a lookout, Ian said. I was, but the small space would only let me see so far. They were completely surrounded, not just around them, but also above as well. A few of the slug creatures dropped from above, while the ones around them reached out with their tentacles. There were too many attacks at once. Ian then held out both of his hands with his palms open. Objects from all over the library started to vibrate. Stick close to me, kid, Ian commanded, and Borden did as he was told. Repel! At that moment, the ball exploded with an incredible force. Little pieces of scrap metal were flung out so hard, it had caused several puncture wounds in the beast's body, killing them all as it went through their brains and hearts. Good thing this planet is covered in metal, huh? Ian said with a smile on his face. Come on then, let's not waste these crystals. The two of them went up to the dead slugs and started to carve out the crystals. After gathering the crystals, Ian had handed Borden half of them. Here, take it. I can't, I didn't do anything. Look, these are only basic tier crystals. I could earn these in my sleep. Fine, Borden said. Then, finally, the two of them spotted something. See that? Now, if I was going to put a portal anywhere, I would put it in there, Ian said, pointing at the large dome building. What is it? Borden asked. It looks like a training center. That's exactly what it is, and it looks like it was well built. The beasts around here haven't even been able to scratch it, and it's big enough to build a secret base underneath. The two of them continued walking forward with their next destination in sight, the training center.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.